A surging river, a flood of barbarians. Can you hold off from both ends in Legacy of You by GarphillGames? My name's Andrew, and this is the board game rundown.
And you can say the title's only 3 words.
Legacy of You is a one-player deck builder / worker placement game in which you are facing pressure from two sides, literally on the board. From the left side, you have the surging river, indicated by this blue piece right here. And when you run out of cards in your deck and you have to reshuffle, this wave moves forward 1. And if your barge, indicated by this red piece right here, ever lands on the same tile as the wave, you automatically lose the game. And you're going to be using a specific type of resource to take care of that. You're going to try building canals to settle this flooding water. Over time, these cards will be removed, and if you can see right here, you're actually building these canals off, calming the flooding waters and providing a water source elsewhere along the land. But the attack from the waters on the left is not as pressing as the barbarians on the right side. On the right side, we start the game with just one barbarian right here. And by the way, these are all just placement, or this is just the card art on the back. All of these cards have all of the symbology, and they actually mean something on the other side, but I don't want to get into that just yet because it can be a little bit overwhelming. We'll go over an example of one of each card a little bit later. But at the end of each turn, once you run out of cards, you are going to have to restock this top shelf of cards, I guess you could say. And the barbarians are going to start filling up the top row here. And if you ever fill up your row fully with barbarians, you also lose. So there's pressure coming from both sides. Do you want to fight the barbarians, or do you want to hold off the flood? This is a really great resource management game, and I can't wait to get into it with you. So let's talk a little bit about the gameplay. So you're going to draw 10 cards, all of which are these cards that you have on the top of your deck, these townsfolk cards, and all of them are different. In my hand, I have about 20 to 30 townsfolk cards. I'm going to show you an example of one card, and I'm going to talk about it really quick, okay? So this is a townsfolk card, and this specific townsfolk card, if you just play it down into your discard pile or your exhaust pile, it will give you 1 wood resource. On the opposite end, you can discard this card and completely get rid of it from your deck to also gain the white worker, which I believe is called the laborer. Below that is another symbol that will be used as you progress throughout the game. There's some extra resources that will come about throughout your legacy campaign. And by the way, I just want to say really quick, this is a fully resettable legacy game where you play throughout a numerous amount of playthroughs in which you either beat the barbarians, or you beat the flood, or you lose to the barbarians and lose to the flood. And there are loads of different outcomes for you, and I'm not going to spoil any of them, obviously, but some of the spoilers are actually in the starting cards, so you will have more resources to interact with and mess around with. But there's like 40 pages of content here, and all of them do a really good job kind of telling a story. A really good storytelling from GarphillGames. Great job there. On the bottom of this card here is a harvest ability, which you can utilize. That symbol on the bottom that looks like a sunrise with the water, that is your harvest symbol. So whenever you see that symbol, you're going to be collecting more resources. So in this case, you would draw a card and gain a cowrie shell. The cowrie shells help you fight off the flood. The next card that I want to go over are barbarian cards. Now, barbarians exist in your top row, cluttering up your townsfolk area until you defeat them. So in this example, on this card, you have to defeat you have to defeat this barbarian by surrendering 2 red workers and 1 blue worker. As a reward, on the right side, you will get 2 cowrie shells and a brick. Now, what sucks is that if this specific barbarian exists on the top row at the end of your turn, at the end of playing all of your cards from your hand, you have to do one of 2 things. You either have to completely trash a card from your hand, or you have to surrender 2 cowrie shells from your inventory. The problem with trashing cards from your deck is that the less cards you have in your deck, the quicker you're going to trigger this flooding event. Now, I don't know if you can see it at the bottom of this, bottom of my green screen here, but when you draw your final card, you have to reshuffle and then draw up to 4 again. And the wave moves one space over to the right. And if the wave is in the same space as your barge, then you lose the game. So discarding cards, or I'm sorry, not discarding. There's a lot of very similar mechanics here. If you have to trash a card, you are getting closer to having to shuffle your deck more and more. And this game is vicious because a lot of these barbarian cards, actually, I think all of them, they either allow you to bribe the barbarian by paying the resource, in other words, the 2 cowrie shells that we looked at earlier, or it's trashing a card from your pile. And I mean, that is brutal. So anyway, this is a fantastic, I would say a dual balance resource management game. There are resources that you need to stave off the flood, and those are your white laborers, that's very small, sorry, and your cowrie shells right here. And in the beginning, you have to pay 2 laborers and 2 cowrie shells to remove this one, this specific part of the river. That means you've carved out a part of the river, the canal is successfully built, and the next round, your barge moves 1 step further away from the impending flood. And you get some resources too. So from this card, you get a brick, a wood, and unfortunately, you have to trash a card, which stinks. But I think that shows like building this canal was dangerous. So there's a little bit of flavor. Like some people probably died building this canal, and I even think I wouldn't consider this a spoiler. It just shows the dangers of the canal and potentially losing some of your workers, trying to prevent something bad from happening. You're going to lose people. So I don't know. I've never dug out a canal to save off from a from a flooding river. Anyway, let's move on to just the quality of the components and some final thoughts. So at first, I'm going to be honest, when I got a hold of GarphillGames, I was like, I don't know if I want to play a single player only game, but I realized that this can actually be a really good game for couples as well. Just because I'm the one drawing these cards and holding them in my hand doesn't mean that I can't enjoy the story with my wife, for example. I don't know if you're going to like invite one of your bros over for a night of like solo Legacy of You, but this could be a really good 2-player game, not in a sense that you're playing against each other, but that you're playing with each other and you're experiencing this story. It's also helpful to have another brain next to me thinking, because there's a lot of tough decisions. Do I really want to discard one, or I'm sorry, let's go back to these words that I have to implement. Do I really want to trash one of my townsfolk and gain that extra resource that I need to hold off the barbarians? Or do I want to preserve them and kind of hold off the impending flood more? There's a lot of really difficult choices. Resources are scarce in this game, and there's a couple ways that you can get more, and I'm going to take just a minute to talk about that, but I just want to talk about my initial experience and how that changed over time. This is a great little game from GarphillGames, and everything was delivered. I'm very impressed with this company time and time again. So let's talk about some ways to get resources really quick, because I didn't really talk about the board, but this just kind of goes into our components. So the board is fantastic. Everything is really easy to understand. You're just working with 4 resources here. You're working with wood, stone, and these 2 little cardboard cowrie shells and provisions. I didn't really talk about the provisions, but this isn't really like a rule teach, so that's okay. There are some houses that you can place on the board as you progress, and they do different things. So the first one, the orange buildings on the left, those provide you resources when you harvest, when you reset. The purple buildings allow your different colored workers to act as other different colored workers. So if I wanted to build a purple building, for example here, now my white workers and my blue workers can serve the same purpose. So if you remember my barbarian from earlier, it costs 2 red workers and a blue worker. Well, now I can use a white worker, which is a little bit more, they're a little bit easier to get. I can use my white worker to fend off this barbarian. So that's our purple houses. And our greenhouses allow for, well, I can just show you because these are the ones that actually involve cards. On the back, they give you a resource. So in this situation, I would get a cowrie shell. And it also allows for placement of cards at the bottom of your board to increase the number of resources you can get during harvest. But that's just a small little glimpse of the board. Very expensive, that one, by the way. But the quality overall is fantastic. I think GarphillGames just knocked it out of the park. So the cards are extremely high quality. They're a little bent. You know, a lot of my hobbyist board gamers, sometimes you just buy some games with cards and they just bend just right out the gate. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just, they're already bending. I don't know if that's due to moisture, but I mean, they're kept in my basement and I have a dehumidifier running all the time and it is not a moist basement. It just stinks to see those cards bend like that when they're really nice linen finished cards. I know we got a lot of flack for critiquing the artwork in the other Garphill game, Circadian's Chaos Order, but in this case, the artwork is fantastic. It's the same artist, Sam Phillips, and it just fits the theme so much better. It looks so good. It looks so good. So Sam, props to you on this one. You did a great job. But more importantly, you didn't change your art style. Just the theme, it fits your hand way better. Or in my opinion, it fits your graphical design way better. So fantastic work. All of your iconography is fantastic. I understood everything. All of the artwork is great. Everything was easy to understand, and I never had a problem reading a card and saying like, what does this mean? So good work there. Everything is high quality. This is a tiny little box. I want to show you what this box looks like, actually. Everything is in its own little container, and I don't know if you can see it at specific angles, but they tell you where everything goes. Like my houses go into that little compartment. And at the very bottom of this box, underneath the plastic, is just a little printout of images that tell you where to put everything. This is a clean game. Do not get turned off by the fact that this is a solo game. I was, but I reached out anyway, and I was hoping I could give this game a fair shot. I love GarphillGames, and I know that they bring quality worker placement games to the table all the time. So when I heard that this was a solo game, it's just not my jam. Board games are for hanging out with people and enjoying an experience together. But you can experience this with a significant other. Or if you're into solo games, hey, that's all the more reason. If you're a solo player, buy this game. It's fully resettable too, which I'm all for putting money in the pockets of the developers of this game, but I don't see any reason why you can't just take this 70 card story deck full of customizable, or not customizable, but ever changing options for your games. You can just put these back and put them in order and hand it off to your friend and say, hey, hope you enjoy the experience as much as I did. So this kind of reminds me of those little DV game, like Deckscape games, you know, how you can just put them all back in order and you can re-experience it. I would way prefer these because I'm very bad at solve the crime kind of games. But these worker placement games, the fact that this is fully resettable, this is fantastic. So let's get on to the final score. Okay, so final score for the board game rundown. We're going to take all of our scores and divide it by 1, because this is a solo review for a solo game. I didn't give it to any of the other guys because I wanted to spend some time, really spend some time with this game to give a fair review without, giving any spoilers, obviously. I really enjoyed this game. I think this is shocking for me. Like I said earlier, I did not want to play a solo game, but I do want to give developers that I love the benefit of the doubt that they're going to deliver an experience that's enjoyable to the people who already enjoy their products. And I had a great time with Legacy of You. Once again, this is fully resettable. You don't have to rip up any cards. There is a non-linear progression. There are win conditions. There are lose conditions. You could win the game over the course of the story, or you could lose the game. You could lose the game throughout the course of your time in Legacy of You. And I'll show you just really quick. So you've got 7 victory cards, and then there is a final golden victory card, and that tells you to go to a specific spot in the book. And then you have 7 defeat cards, all ending in a final golden defeat, all of which are narrated, illustrated, not illustrated, explained in your storybook. Everything was fantastically written. The fact that they can tell a story over the course of a few games just by simple paragraphs in a storybook, it's just GarphillGames knocking it out of the park. So my final score for this game is an 8. This is a great experience. It's going to be memorable because you're going to play it one time, and you're going to, I'm sure you could play it more times if you want, but you're going to value that one experience that you had, your first experience with Legacy of You. And I would be excited, and I'm sure GarphillGames would be honored by, people saying like, hey, take this game and try it out, and if you like it, go buy it or something, go support the developers. But yes, I highly recommend Legacy of You, and I believe it actually just shipped maybe a month ago. So get yourself a copy, add this to your collection. It is going to look pretty. It is going to look pretty in your collection. It is fantastic. And I hope you enjoyed this small little review of Legacy of You. And I just want to say, unlike every other reviewer out there, I avoided any form of using a you play on words here. So I highly recommend you go buy this game. Oh, I did it. Okay, thank you guys. This is Andrew with the Board Game Rundown. Have a fantastic day.